Welcome back to another episode of Right Here in Mass. Joining me today is Ashley Harwood, who began her real estate career in 2013 and built a six-figure business as a solo real estate agent before launching her company in 2018. A national speaker, sought-after sales trainer, author of Move Over Extroverts, How to Build a Successful Real Estate Career as an Introvert, and contributing writer for HousingWire, Ashley was also named one of the top real estate coaches by the Close and INMAN. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. I can't remember if we've had any real estate agents yet. I don't think we have. So I think it'll be
Ooh,
fun that you are
okay.
going to be the first.
Awesome. I love it.
Me too. But I would love to have you start off by sharing more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I do a couple different things. I see my career right now as 50-50 sales and real estate, helping buyers and sellers throughout Massachusetts. And then the other part of my time, the other 50% is spent helping other real estate agents. So I do that through group coaching, training, speaking, going on other podcasts, and writing books. So it's really been a lot of fun to build these different businesses along the way. It's been 12 years now. I just had
Oh
my
my
12-year
gosh.
anniversary in real estate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what is it that brought you to real estate overall, generally?
I have a unique story. I was not raised in real estate, but I always thought about it. Even when I was a kid, I would look at the house listings and try to figure out why this one was more expensive than this one, even though it was smaller. And you have like the little in the newspaper, remember there was like the one
Yeah.
photo, black and white, little description. And I would just sit there. I was fascinating. I was fascinated by it. It was very weird. Most people get into real estate as a second or third career, or they were raised in the business by their family. I was just a strange child and liked houses. So, yeah, I was in retail for a little while. I worked at Neiman Marcus in Natick, which is now a pickleball facility,
Oh,
which is
no
very
way.
weird. But that was my first kind of job in Massachusetts after college. And then it was finally the right time to get into real estate because it is an interesting business where you don't make any money until you sell something. So
Mhm.
you have to have like the right time in life for that.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, that's so interesting to hear about how something that you were so interested in since you were young has now like transpired into a full career. And I know that you mentioned at the beginning that you have like a 50-50 split where right now it's real estate and right now it's, and then the other half it's coaching other real estate agents. And so let's hear about that moment of when you kind of realized that you wanted to become a coach, if there was like an aha moment or anything like that that made you realize that was another path you wanted to pursue.
There was, and it was a several conversations with my business coach at the time.
Mhm.
This was about 8 years ago. I had reached a certain level of success in my real estate career, and it was kind of time to take it to the next level. For most agents, that means starting a team and
Mhm.
hiring people and starting to grow this little real estate empire. And that didn't sound very appealing to me. I didn't want the responsibility of hiring and managing, being responsible for other people, at least not at that level. But I really enjoyed teaching classes in my office. I enjoyed mentoring other agents. And I also knew that if I had struggled as a new agent, as an introvert,
Mhm.
there were probably other people out there like me. So that's where this idea came from is, hey, why don't I go out and help all the other introverted real estate agents? And I do a little bit of speaking and training for other industries as well. It's not just real estate because a lot of the sales skills and entrepreneurship skills, it's pretty similar across different industries.
Yeah.
But definitely is the bulk of it is in real estate.
Yeah. And I love that your specialty specifically is with introverts and introversion because I feel like getting into my business, that was one thing I struggled with. I'm still very introverted, but I feel like entrepreneurship force me a little bit out of like my comfort zone, hence the quote back there, get comfortable with
Yeah.
the uncomfortable. But I remember getting on my first few sales calls and like actually like shaking and my voice was so shaky and I was sweating and I was like, I have to do something about this. So I just love that you really focus on that and help business owners just get past that or find ways to manage it and work with it.
Yeah, and it really is a strength when you
Mm-hmm.
understand it and use it as such. It's the opposite of what people think. It doesn't mean that you're shy or not comfortable. It's just an energy thing. It's just knowing that when you're around people talking to them, it's going to require an output of energy. So you have to make sure you have enough to start with.
Yes, very true. And that is a good point that I'd love for you to expand upon for anyone listening who may be an extrovert who might not understand introversion so well is the strengths. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So introverts get our energy from being alone. That's how we
Hmm.
recharge. We do tend to have fewer but deeper relationships, and we tend to be really good listeners. Um, Extroverts are great at working a room and being very like drawing people into them and that sort of thing. So everyone has their strengths. It's just about understanding what yours are and how to use them.
Hmm. Absolutely. And so, with that being said, for anyone listening to this episode who may be a real estate agent or maybe they're in a different career, but they are an introvert, what tips or advice do you have for them for just being able to manage that successfully in their career?
There are a lot of different tips I could give. I think probably the best one that would have the most impact is to start paying attention to which activities and people throughout your day are using the most energy. Like, where are you putting out the most energy and where are you getting it back? So, for instance, if you know that having a one-on-one coffee meeting is going to take a certain amount of energy, but then going to a networking event with 100 people, sorry, I just hit my computer. Going to a networking event with 100 people, that might require a lot more energy. So the first step is to know that and then go back into your calendar and be very strategic around where you're spending it and make sure that if you have this big event in the evening, you're taking a nap before, or
Hmm.
you're not filling up your day with six one-on-one meetings before you go to this event. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
put in a break for yourself so that you can recharge and be on point so you're not completely exhausted and resenting being there. I've felt that before, where
Yeah.
you're there and you're like, I already paid for this thing. I'm here, but I really just don't want to be here. And that's
I
not
have
good for
done that so many
anybody.
times.
Yeah, that's not helpful. It's counterproductive.
Yeah, yeah, and that is a really good piece of advice that you gave about like really paying attention to and being mindful of like where is your energy going the most? Where are you getting that energy back? So that way you don't necessarily, I don't want to say make like impulsive decisions, but maybe like make decisions without really thinking about it fully through and thinking if it's like actually something good for you to pursue or something that might not align with you right now.
Yeah, I mean, most entrepreneurs are pretty good about um, tracking where they're spending their time and tracking where they're
Mhm.
spending their money and where that return is. We're not as good as tr at tracking our energy output
Yeah,
and being very
yeah.
intentional. And so that's kind of my overall bigger mission that's bigger than real estate, that's bigger than introverts. It's this energy management piece where it's really thinking of it as a tool and a resource and figuring out where am I going to spend this throughout my day to get the
Mhm.
best return.
Totally. And that makes me wonder too, because I was actually just having a conversation with a business friend earlier about how we also go through like seasons of in business, both like during the year, but also just in business overall. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious if you find that energy that introverts might have might change by season, if that makes sense too, depending on like stage they're at in their business or even time of year. And if they might need like if they might be able to give different outputs at a certain point of the year than they might at other points, if that makes sense. Hopefully I'm explaining that correctly.
It does. It does. And I'm thinking not as much the time of the year, but certainly the seasons of a career. You know, the
Mm,
first year or two it's drinking from a fire hose. It's learning everything. Everything's new, everything's scary. The confidence level's low for everyone generally. So everything you do in those first couple of years is probably going to take more energy. It's
Yeah.
going to have that. And when you feel adrenaline in your body, that takes energy too, because that's a lot going on. So as the years go on and you get more used to what you're doing and the
Hmm.
conversations and just every piece of the business, all those pieces take less energy than they did before, which is great
Yeah.
because that frees you up to take it to the next level and maybe do something else or just do more or whatever.
Yeah, that's a really good point where it's like in the beginning when you're newer to something, it might take a little bit longer, a little bit more energy, but as you kind of get used to it and you know the whole phrase of practice makes perfect, like then to your point, you might not feel so drained from it now that you've done it kind of over and over again repetitively.
Yeah, it becomes a habit. It becomes
Mhm.
easier. It's like driving. Once you know how to drive, you're good. Like you're good. Sometimes
Totally.
you drive somewhere you don't even know how you got there, but
Yeah, and you're like, wait a second, I just drove here? I don't even like recall.
in the
Yeah,
beginning it's like, okay, check everything, make sure we're very nervous. It's a lot.
yeah. Totally, totally. And for our extroverts listening to this episode, who might not totally understand the things that entrepreneurs, or not entrepreneurs, introverts kind of like feel and go through and whatnot, what would you say are some things that they should know about from an introvert perspective that might help them understand more, so to say?
Certainly. So there are two big differences.
Hmm.
The first is that introverts, we require energy to be around other people,
Hmm.
like full stop. Even if it's people we enjoy, people we love, that still requires an energy output. And so, in order to recharge our batteries, we need to be alone. And sometimes that can be tough for extroverts to understand because they're the opposite. They have the opposite needs. They need to be around other people, and being alone is draining for them. So it's just a matter of understanding how the other person works. The second piece is how we process information. So in and again, these are generalities, but usually extroverts process information by talking it out.
Mm,
And if they're talking it out at another person, it's probably draining on that person. That's okay. We just all have to be aware of it. And the introverts, we process information by being quiet or journaling or thinking or going for a walk. We do it internally. And so when we're being very quiet, that doesn't mean we have nothing to say. That just means that we're thinking, we're processing on our own
yeah.
quietly. So I would encourage introverts to speak up when you have something to say, and extroverts to solicit that information. I'm thinking specifically of if you're a leader running a team. If you have people who are more quiet, make a point to ask them what they think or
Mhm.
ask them separately later one-on-one. Like, hey, I really value your opinion and you didn't say anything about this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that. And I'm curious if you recommend introverts like be open about the fact that they're introverted, especially if it's like a newer business relationship. If you think that they should say, I'm introverted, I may do things differently or need to follow different processes or something like that, to maybe prevent, I don't want to say issues from happening, but maybe like miscommunication or misunderstandings for someone who's extroverted who may not understand what an introvert needs in order to have the energy to produce the outputs they would like to produce.
I would absolutely explain your needs.
Mhm.
I would be cautious against using the labels because there's a lot of misunderstanding around it. And I would hate for someone to think that you're making an excuse for why you can't do something. So how I would probably phrase it is, um, hey, I tend to be more reserved and process information quietly on my own. So if I'm not participating as much in the conversation, that's why.
Yeah.
And just open up the conversation around how um, what's the word I want? How you show it versus the label. I think
Okay.
that would be more helpful for people.
That makes a lot of sense. And I feel like for me as an introvert, that's something I do when it comes to events, or if I get invited to an event after work. that I just feel like I can't commit to because I have another event earlier in the week and I just can't balance two events in one week. I might say that where like, I'm so sorry. I'm so grateful for this invitation, but I'm tapped out on what I can commit to after work during this week at this time. And I think just like you said, not putting a label on it, but just kind of like sharing why it doesn't work out at this point, I think is a really good suggestion.
Yeah, and that's only if it requires an explanation. I think most
That's
things don't
true.
require an explanation at all. You can just,
Yeah.
my favorite line is, I wish I could attend, I just don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
There's a multitude of things. You don't have to get into details. It's no one's business.
Yes, I love that. I feel like I'm an over explainer because I feel bad. So so
No,
I
you
love
can
that
just
you
genuinely say, I really wish I could attend or I wish I could be there. I just can't make it this time. Please invite me again. Please keep me on the list. Something like that.
Yes, I love that. Like reminding people, please still extend the offer, but right now it just doesn't work out. And I feel like that piece of advice is something that can apply to anything in business or life. So not necessarily events, but like opportunities or really anything that just doesn't align with you for whatever reason. That is like the perfect way to gracefully just say that you can't do it right.
Right. And it's not forever. It's I can't do it right now. I can't commit to
Mhm.
this for this year, but perhaps in the future or whatever it is. If you want to leave the door open, leave the door open. But I don't think people need to worry about explaining too much. I see this in real
Totally.
estate all the time. People are always, other agents are always like, oh, I have to pick my kid up from school. I'm like, you don't have to tell me this. Just,
Just
if
do
you can't be there, you can't be
it.
there. It's fine. We'll make it work. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need your life story. It's not relevant.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if that's because if it may be like societal assumptions that make people feel like they need to over explain, where it's like sometimes I feel like, I mean, this is just speaking from my own experience, but if I like can't do something, I over explain because I worry that someone might think, oh, well, she's just being lazy or she just doesn't want to do it. But it's like, no, there's like a real explanation. And so I wonder if that's something that you see, whether it's with your real estate agent clients or anyone else, where it's like they just, because they're worried about what society will think of them, they feel like they kind of have to like give an over explanation of stuff.
Yeah, it's insecurity. And that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's a good way to phrase it.
It's okay. That is what it is.
Yeah. And so with that, with the work you do with real estate agents specifically, I know we chatted about how introverts can manage that in their careers, but what types of things do you recommend to real estate agents specifically? Like, especially knowing that they have a lot of open houses, either to host or attend with clients and stuff that does seem like it requires more of like that in-person um, meetings and whatnot. Like, what do you usually share with them that they can do to kind of find something that feels good to
They need to take time off during the week. If you're
them?
working all weekend, talking to people all weekend, you have to take time by yourself during the week. Either a full day off, that's what I always recommend if possible, or at least a half day or a couple half days to just be yourself and just chill and be alone and do whatever you need to do. Um, and it can feel really weird because we're business owners and there's this thing, very much societal norms of working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But then if you're also a real estate agent, you are probably working on the weekends too. And then what happens? You're working 7 days a week forever? No, that's not sustainable. So force yourself to take time off during the week. It's going to feel weird. You're going to feel guilty, but just do it and build the
Mhm.
habit of doing it and know that it's okay because you were working all weekend. Like it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love that. And it kind of reminds me of the quote, like you can't pour from an empty cup. And although sometimes I feel like it's cliche, I mean, it is really true. You can't continue to have all these outputs if you have no energy to pull from in order to output what you would like to produce or whatever it might be. And so I think that's a really good reminder to just take the time that you need and recharge because when you are resting, that is productive. And which is something so easy to forget that resting is productive when we have a million and one things to do on our to-do list.
Yeah. And I find that a lot of people, not just in real estate, but all business owners, struggle with taking care of themselves because,
Mm-hmm.
especially if the money's not coming in the way you want it to be, it can feel again, it feels indulgent and it can feel guilty to take time for yourself. But here's the thing, if you can't do it just for yourself, do it for your clients. Because when you're well rested, and I'm not just talking about sleep, I'm talking about resting the brain, resting the eyeballs from the screens, all the things. When you're well rested, you're a better problem solver, you're more calm, you're better at handling stress for yourself and your clients. So it makes you better in your business. So if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for your clients.
Yes. And then when you phrase it that way, the business owner is like, well, now I have to commit to self-care.
Yes, you do. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. And you mentioned something just now about when the money coming isn't coming in the way that you would like it to, which is something you had alluded to in the beginning with real estate agents specifically, where it's a very much a commission-based role. It can be stressful when you aren't getting that commission as quickly as you would hope, and it tends to kind of lead to those more poor habits or not prioritizing your self-care. And so with that, what would you recommend that from what you've experienced both in your career as a real estate agent and also with the clients that you've coached?
I would say find a balance. It's not going to look like 3 days off a week off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. It might be a few hours here and there, pockets of time, until you really have the business up and running. But the main thing is finding the most important activities and making sure those get done. So
Mm-hmm.
that's finding business, that's following up with leads, that's going on appointments, all of that stuff has to get done. So, other things you might be able to leverage out. You could even partner with somebody else in your office. I always recommend this to buddy up with somebody who's at the same level and cover for each other
Mm-hmm.
and just tell the clients, "Hey, I'm not going to be available on Thursday, but my colleague Susie she's helping me out. And so if you need anything, just reach out to her." And then I'll
Yeah.
circle back with you on Friday and make sure everything's good.
Yeah. I
Like,
love that
Susie can open a
suggestion.
door. It's fine. Like,
Totally. And I love that because I feel like sometimes business owners might think that like asking for help or bringing in someone to help might like they think that the client might think that they're incapable if they can't do it themselves, but that is so far from the truth. And if anything, I feel like clients are like, wow, this person cares so much that like there's multiple people working here to help me, like multiple people who want to see me succeed. And so again, I feel like it's almost just like a mindset shift of like understanding that it's okay to have that support and ask for help when you need it, and that your clients aren't going to be unhappy with you because you do that.
right. It's totally a mindset shift. And it's also setting the expectation with the client and letting them
Mm-hmm.
know at your first meeting when they hire you, hey, there are going to be times when I'm simply not available. I'll either have other appointments or I might have, some whatever it is, time with my family or just something else that comes up, and can't be in two places at once. So I want to make sure that you're always taken care of. So for that reason, I have a few colleagues that I work with, and if I'm not available, you will be taken care of.
Mm-hmm. And on the opposite end, for um, someone who may be introverted who is a buddy for someone else, how do you recommend they manage that if they might feel like their energy is kind of divided by their own clients and then clients that they may be supporting on behalf of someone else, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so that comes back to being very cognizant of your time and
Mm-hmm.
energy and not agreeing to, like, if you're working 6 days a week on your own business and then your day off, you're covering for someone else, that's not a day off. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
So just don't plan it like that. Be very careful with who you're helping and when, and make sure that the schedules align so
Mm-hmm.
you have time for yourself. And that's true for extroverts too, because extroverts also need time off. Their time off is probably going to be spent around other people.
Yes. Yeah, that is the best way to phrase it. I'd love to hear if you're able to share like any success stories that you've had working with clients where they just had like a really amazing outcome from the coaching work that they did with you, or just some examples you could share.
Sure. My favorite example, which is also in the book, so apologies if somebody's read the book and they know this already, but um, it's the most concrete example I have of this. being intentional with the energy and the timing of things. So, in the real estate business, the most important part of our day is our listing appointments. That's when we're going into a homeowner's house, we're meeting with them to talk about selling their house. Sometimes they're competitive appointments where somebody's meeting with multiple agents and you have to win the business. So we have to be on during those appointments. And um, so there was an agent in one of my full day workshops years ago who was sabotaging all of his appointments because he was calling a family member before the appointment, like in the car driving over, he was making this kind of obligatory phone call, and it was putting him in a very wonky headspace and wonky
Mm.
energy. And he was unknowingly sabotaging all of these listing appointments because he'd show up in this weird mood. And so I said, well, why don't you just call this person afterwards, after the appointment? And he was like, my God, like just mind, the dumbest little thing, like the simplest shift. But when you're in it, that's your habit, that's your pattern.
Yeah.
And it sometimes takes talking it out with somebody else to realize if I just do this simple shift, it will make a huge difference. And of course, he circled back to me and said that that was very helpful and made a big difference. And that way, you're showing up to the appointment in the right headspace and you're controlling everything that happens up to that point. And then afterwards, you go do whatever you want. Like you're
Mhm.
good. Unless you have another appointment right after, then don't do that.
Yeah. Wait till after the second appointment.
Or wait till you're done for the day.
Yes.
But knowing how conversations with certain people are going to affect you, that's really powerful because then you can control that.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. And sometimes, like you said, it's just one of those things where it's like the smallest, silliest things that you wouldn't know is making an impact until you verbalize it and talk about it. And then someone points it out to you, and you're like, wait a second, why didn't I think of
Right.
that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And on the topic of your book, I'd love to hear more about that in terms of what inspired you to write the book and also what the book writing process was like.
Mm. Well, I have been thinking about it ever since I started my coaching company, and it just wasn't the right time. An old coach of mine, a different one, she used to call writing a book, she's like, it's a BFFD, a big fat effing distraction. And I'm like, you're right, you're right. It's a distraction. This is not the time to write this book. So it had been sitting and living in my brain for about 7 years. And then finally last year I said, you know what? This is the year. This is the right
Mhm.
time. Let's write the book. So it's really the culmination of all of my teaching, all of my classes, everything that I talk about in one place. So I see it as kind of a legacy piece where it will just live on and it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's there. It's done. It's helpful. People are liking it, so that's good.
Yeah. And done is better than perfect for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I could have tooled around with it for another year or two, but I wanted to get it out there and get it into the hands of the people.
I love that. And you brought up such a good point too that I feel like can apply to anything that you do in business, any type of project, is that sometimes just getting it out there is better than continuing to toy with it and mess with it and change it. And then all of a sudden, years have passed and you're like, I still haven't launched or released or made public this thing that I've been working on that I felt so passionate about.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather have it be out there living, and then at some point I might do an updated version or something. I mean, the big vision is to have versions of this content in a
Mhm.
lot of different industries.
Oh,
So if
nice.
you have people listening to this who are in other industries and a leader in their
Resonates.
industry and
Yeah.
introvert, like they can reach out to me.
Love it. I love it. And for anyone who's listening to this episode who is potentially interested in considering real estate as a career, I'm curious to hear what advice you would give for them getting started in the industry, especially knowing that real estate like wasn't what you came from growing up.
Lots of advice. We could talk about that for way too long. It's the biggest challenge that agents have is finding business. So
Hmm.
if you're coming into it with a large network of people who know you and trust you, then you're going to succeed faster than someone who is like me and had just moved here from another state and didn't know anybody. So if you're like very well known in your town and very well connected, you're going to succeed faster. Anyone can succeed. It just is a matter of effort and timing.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice that like you will end up finding that success whether you have a ton of contacts or almost none. But like you said, it just really takes putting in the work and being consistent, and then it will find its way.
Yeah, and most people don't make it.
Hmm.
We have most people don't make it through their first year.
Yeah.
So it's I think the number is 1 in 12
Oh,
don't make
wow.
it through the first year. Yeah. So but it's also a very low barrier to entry. So it costs about $1,000 all in to go through licensing and sign on with a brokerage. So it's not a huge investment. Massachusetts is one of the easiest states to get your license in, for better or worse. And yeah, if anyone's actually interested in thinking about it, let me know because I have a lot of resources that I can provide. I actually just wrote an article for HousingWire on real estate prep, like for the exam.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So I write for them about once a week or so.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great resource.
Yeah. But we have a lot of resources locally as well. So reach out to me. But the biggest thing is finding clients. That's the
Yeah.
hardest part. Everything else
Yeah,
you can learn. Yeah.
totally. Totally. And with that, I mean, I know you mentioned you work with other leaders who focus on sales and whatnot. I mean, do you have any advice that you have found worked really well, regardless of industry, for just closing those deals and getting new clients?
I guess my best generic advice is looking at every opportunity as a long-term play. I
Hmm.
see a lot of people in sales and people who own businesses get frustrated that the sales cycle is taking a little bit longer and they want that immediate yes. And a
Hmm.
lot of times, I mean, I guess it's different if you own like an ice cream parlor and it's here's your ice cream. Do you want it
Yeah.
or not? But if it's like a house or a mortgage or insurance or something that's a little bit more weighty, it can be a longer process. And think of it as building relationships for the long term to do business with the same people over and over and earn their referrals over time versus, oh, they're not going to buy a house tomorrow. Well, forget it. I'm not going to stay in touch.
Right.
It's more just having this pool of people that you're constantly following up with and providing value with over years sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Never like focusing only on those short-term wins, but like the long-term results that can come from it.
Right. Yeah, and treating everyone equally with
Hmm.
respect and no matter in our world it's the price point, right?
Yes.
So you want to treat the $300,000 buyer buying a condo the same as the $2 million buyer
Hmm.
because there's you're still helping them through this process.
Yes. Absolutely. I love that. And now, one of my favorite questions to ask our guests is I would love to hear what your favorite local businesses are to support.
Hmm. I have a lot. I hope no one's offended if I don't say yours. But the first one that comes to mind is Yummy Mummy Brownies Bakery in
Ooh.
it's in Westboro, Mass. And I've known the owner for many, many years. She started just as a farmer's market stand. And it's grown into, she's on her second brick and mortar location and ships these amazing brownies nationally. So I use them as gifts and I send them off to people around the country. And it's very, very cool what she's built.
Oh, I love that. You can never go wrong with a food suggestion.
Yeah.
Ashley, this has been such a fun episode, and I myself have learned a lot from what you've shared, and I know our listeners have as well. And so I'd love if you could share with our listeners where they can find you online if you'd like to connect.
Yeah, thank you. My website is moveoverextroverts.com. That's also the name of the book. It's on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble, Move Over Extroverts. And people can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Um, if you want to buy or sell a house, reach out. I help with that too.
All the things.
All the things. Yeah.
Thank you so much again, Ashley, for coming on this week's episode of Right Here in Mass.
Thank you.